Hey there. So, a bit of an update about where I've been. A lot of things just really happened lately, and I've tried recording a couple of videos, but since I'm doing this sort of like low effort, no editing, and all of that, I something always just came up that when I finally recorded a video, either either someone started calling my phone, and then the video was kind of like unusable from that point on, or I kind of went off a tangent. But I'm going to be talking about what it felt like going off antibiotics because I'm sure someone out there would benefit from this. I know transitioning off antibiotics and going on to treating with herbals was a huge, excuse me, was a huge step for me and was very unnerving. Um, it was it was actually a terrible experience for the first week. I felt horrible. Tons of symptoms I had gotten rid of came back, and the story behind how I started going off antibiotics was actually that when I uploaded my last video when I had the fever, like more than 4 weeks ago now, I just wanted to document it, and thus I just put it up despite my mom calling in the middle of the video, and it's a disaster. But by any means, if you feel like watching, you can kind of guess the the state I was in, like how bad I was doing by how I come off in that video. And coincidentally, the day I decided to try to see maybe I can sustain myself with pure herbals is the day my girlfriend passed whatever flu she had been having for the past week or so onto me. And I didn't really expect, to even have a reaction to getting the flu because I hadn't had a fever in so long. So I didn't really plan on it, but I had the probably one of the worst fevers of my life, the worst one I remember at least. And unfortunately, I didn't have any working thermometer, so I couldn't really gauge if my temperature ever reached a concerning point. And that kind of decide like because of that, I didn't really push myself too hard, and oh, well, actually, I did push myself hard, but I didn't push myself as hard as I wanted to go. And believe me when I tell you that I have never had so much pain from a fever. I started crying, but I cried both from pain and tears of relief in some kind of weird, twisted way I can't even really describe. But the weird thing about this fever, and my girlfriend had it the same way, weirdly enough, it didn't like the normally when you get a fever you have a very warm forehead. It wasn't so much this case for her. It was more the extremities were really hot, like my feet were burning and my arms were burning, my legs were super hot and stuff like that. My forehead was also a little bit warm, but like nothing alarming. But we couldn't really tell exactly what my temperature was like. And then she would feel other body parts of me, and she would be like, "That this is concerning." Then she would feel my forehead, and she was like, "It doesn't feel like." It was really really weird. And the Herxheimer reaction that came along with this fever was also just absolutely brutal. So that's a bit of context to what is happening, why I haven't been uploading. And from that point on, since I had been having some issues with my intestines, I had started really getting a lot of pain in my lower left quadrant of my abdomen. Went to the doctors, no, not really very helpful. Told me I had to go off antibiotics to make a culture of my urine. That wasn't gonna happen at that point in time. And later on, I kind of reached the point where okay, now I have to take this thing seriously because I'm not trying to get well just to end up pooping in a bag for the rest of my life. So I made the leap of faith and started kind of like tapering out of antibiotics since that fever upload. And getting off antibiotics was horrible. It was a horrible experience. It was nerve wracking, and I truthfully I fully expected to be back to being bedridden with bloodshot eyes as I used to be probably within 2 weeks from taking my last dose. I felt that bad. I had a trip planned to go to Poland for some blood work. Um, and the day before, I wasn't even sure that I was gonna make it because I was just feeling so bad. When we arrived at my girlfriend has a Polish family. When we arrived at my girlfriend's parents' house, I felt so just yeah, um it was so weird, because the last time they met me, I was functional. I had I had just started developing a tiny bit of symptoms, like my back really hurt, but it was nothing that they even noticed while I was there. There was nothing going on with me cognitively. There's nothing that was off. And this time there's so much pressure not to be as weird and sensitive as I usually am. Like actually a lot have happened. A lot have actually happened. You maybe you actually sometimes don't think about this as you live your day to day life, but when I think about it, I've actually gotten a lot better in many ways over the past 4 weeks. The first, I want to say maybe like the first 2 weeks, I didn't really see any kind of benefit. Not any obvious ones. It was mostly just settling on the new path. I already was on a ton of herbals on top of my antibiotics, but I didn't really have a full herbal protocol. I just had a bunch of like add-ons to my antibiotics. I made sure that I tested a lot of herbs while I was on antibiotics to make sure if do this thing seem to work for me? Does am I having a allergic reaction to this thing, or is there an MCAS reaction or stuff like that? Make sure that because I knew the writing was kind of on the wall. Eventually, I would have to try something new because antibiotics I was just treading water. So the first week, I just had all of these symptoms coming back, and then the second week, I kind of started seeing some glimpse of things getting better, but I don't think I can even really remember what it was. I just think I kind of saw like a little bit of, well, actually, I am moving more, and that happened instantly when I started adding arginine. For some reason, and I don't understand why, I have some theories, whether it be mitochondrial or if it's because it helps protect the endothelial cells and the endothelial lining, where Bartonella and Borrelia, they really have a party with your endothelial. Um, I truly don't know, but it even seems to affect my knees a little bit, which is puzzling. So I did get some gains from that, and I also started actually noticing that my spine was just a little bit less irritable. And even today, as I was about to I tried recording this video earlier today, actually, I kind of did like this, where you like collect your shoulder blades behind you, and I noticed this doesn't burn all the way down to my ass like they can usually do. Um, and the thing with the herbals are the thing with the herbals is if I miss a dose, a lot of these things will come back rather quickly. If I go 8 hours without a dose of herbals, a lot of symptoms will come back. So you cannot miss doses when you transition to herbals. It's a very different ball game than antibiotics. It's very different. With antibiotics you might have, oh, okay, I missed this dosage of doxycycline. Um, I'll just I'll just push it a few hours and then so it fits my schedule. It doesn't work like that with herbals. So what I'm doing right now is I'm on pure herbals and I'm on ivermectin, and I want to say that I'm cautiously optimistic that I'm actually going to be seeing a lot of gains from doing things this way. I think I'll eventually start sharing my protocol and actually breaking down why I have this protocol and what my goals are with it and what I plan to do and such. Right now, I'm actually very focused on getting rid of candida. And one of the ways that I'm addressing that is pretty straightforward, actually. I just take half a clove of garlic, or whatever amount of garlic I can get away with without irritating my intestines too much. And then I take like one quarter of an onion, and then I blend those in like I have like a little blender. They blend those together, and after that, then I pour in my antibiotic water infusion, like with my Cryptolepis and Isatis and all the other stuff that I have in there. And then I pour in my cat's claw water infusion on top of that. Then I blend all of it, and then I just pretend that it doesn't taste that horrible. You know that the medicine tastes bad when you wanna add raw garlic to make it taste better. That is how horrible what I'm doing right now is, but it actually works. And I'm not really sure if the candida die off is what I'm experiencing right now, because I have gotten my candida knocked down to a point where my tongue did not look as messed up as it does now. And I had a nap earlier today, and then I woke up, and this is a new symptom. I never really had like dizziness, the room spinning the way. So like when I was laying on my side and turned, and I was like, my girlfriend woke me up because she had a meeting with a student group. And like I asked her what's going on, and when I turned my head, it was just like the world turned with me. Can't really describe exactly how it felt, but it was I just felt something was off, you know. Um, that is a new symptom, and the weird thing is, today, like the morning of today, and also after this nap, I woke up in less pain than I usually am in, and just significantly less pain. And I've had more days of that recently. That's another thing, a really really important thing. When you stop the antibiotics and you transition to herbals, at least that's my experience. What I also, when I was in Poland, which was probably like 3 or 4 weeks into being on herbals, 3 weeks probably, I would always wake up just looking for the truck that hit me. And that lasted for a long time. Every morning, I felt worse than the previous morning for at least 2 to 3 weeks. But as I got my first dose of the day, I felt better throughout the day. And I started seeing glimpses of hope as my first dose kind of kicked into my system. And I would say that you kind of sacrifice the moment right before you go to sleep and the moment right when you wake up, and these moments are just, they make you question. At least they make me question if I'm on the right path. But then I had my dose of the morning. I take doses every 4 hours. And then I had my first dose, second dose, third dose, fourth dose, and all of that. I actually started doing the fourth dose because of how bad I was feeling by the time I was going to bed. So initially I thought I was just going to do 3 doses, but no, I definitely need something that's being taken by every 4.5 hours or so apart. Um, so yeah, this is a fairly big update actually, and I hope there's some sprinkled gems in there. I really I really want to make these videos in a structured way at some point with better with the video quality, so it's a lot more accessible and organized, because people need to see somebody's experience so they can reflect on their own. Because I'm sure that with these 20, sometimes like there's thousands of people in these groups, and people on there asking questions and such. People would benefit hugely from having a catalog where they could just go in and look up transitioning from antibiotics to herbals, and really learn from it in okay, so this was my first week, second week. I want to do all of that, but i'm also I'm also human, so i i've been I've not been doing too well myself. As I said, I really expected to be bedbound with bloodshot eyes the way I used to be within 2 weeks of going antibiotics, and that wasn't based on my presumptions of the treatment's effectiveness. It was based on how I was feeling as I started getting off. So yeah, I'm still using ivermectin. I'm no longer using methylene blue. I have nothing bad to say about methylene blue. That is not at all why I'm not using it anymore. The reason why I'm not using methylene blue is because I read this chapter on Chinese cat's claw in Buna's book, and he really made it sound like the golden goose, like the golden ticket for anything spinal cord, brain, neural Lyme. And I was like, well, I need to try this. And another thing with methylene blue is also that it inhibits NO, and arginine is actually a NO inducer. So I knew from previous experience, I've also talked about in my old videos, that I seem to get some flaring of my symptoms when I use citrulline, which is a precursor to arginine, but it also seemed to just give me instant improvements in my ability to walk and my fatigue and such. So um, I wanted to try to no longer be on like a modified Buna, but I wanted to try to go for the like the Buna protocol, and I am somewhat undecided on what I prefer. Both have some benefits. Me being a man, I definitely don't want high estrogen, and a lot of these herbals do increase estrogen, and my hormones are trashed as they are, honestly. So there's not that much to save, but I'm not interested in developing gynecomastia um and becoming feminized. Like I'm a man. Um, so methylene blue is something that helps you inhibit your estrogen also, which I definitely felt and I really did enjoy also. So they each have their benefits, but for now I'm not using methylene blue. I suspect that NO might actually be good for me. I'm seeing some indications, for instance, like the tips of my fingers. I'll be starting to document the discoloration of these. Think you can see it, but the line goes somewhere here. It's where the normal coloring is kind of starting to pick up. And from how I remember it, it used to be down here below this line, like just about here. So I'll try to keep a log of this. Just take some pictures now and then, see if it actually continues improving. And I actually had a comment from my mom. The next, like, she saw me perhaps 2.5, 2 weeks so into being on pure herbals, and this is without me speaking to her or anything. A few days prior to this, I had told my girlfriend, like, when I looked in the mirror, I look healthier. I didn't necessarily feel that much healthier, but I like it was when I started to notice that I, as I got into the day, and like this block of the day I felt good, and this block of the day I felt terrible. Um, it's like the midday, and I told my girlfriend I look better. That was around that point in time, and then a couple days later, my girlfriend and my brother comes over to, because we're just moving. They came over to help us move in because I'm still so disabled to do that. Um, so my mom comes and she like, you look healthier. I'm like, oh, okay, that's interesting. And I just told my girlfriend about that a couple days earlier. So pretty big update. I hope anybody out there who watches these things in its entirety can benefit from it. Maybe someday there will be some guy or girl who will listen to me ramble as they are organizing their pills or playing a video game, just trying to figure out like what to expect about this disease, and maybe they like get to the point. But yeah, I'm sharing my experience. I'll try to make it more structured because I'm not really a person who enjoys too much chitter chatter myself, but I try to make the information as useful as possible.